Volume 3, Episode 8, Destiny. This is definitely an amazing episode, and it was very interesting. I think this was probably the saddest episode we've had ever of RWBY. And we've had some, crazy stuff happen here and there, and it's like, oh, mysteries here. It's like, oh, here's, like Penny's backstory. Meh, slightly sad, I guess, in a weird sense. Here's, kind of Weiss's story and Blake's story, and their lives aren't exactly perfect. And the season 1 or volume 1 finale, I think, is a great example of that. But I don't know. This was definitely the one where it's like, we have two sets of tiers. I mean, of course, we have Yang in the beginning with Blake when, and I thought that was an interesting moment because, of course, it's Yang who's dealing with all the issues and stuff. But they take the time to kind of talk about Blake's story with Adam again and how things led up to her trailer, which I don't know if they're doing that on purpose or if that's just kind of an odd coincidence how they kind of have it played out this way. Because, of course, the last episode, she's in like one scene, but it's important to show like this is where it takes place. That just kind of helps show the time frame. But technically, if it involves Adam, it still involves Blake. And I just thought that was kind of interesting, and then it happens again in this one. And even when she's talking about that, it's her music that's playing from the trailer. It's not Yang's music that's playing, and then it's just Blake, talking to her. It's Blake's music from her trailer that's actually playing. So I thought that was interesting that despite the moment that we're in, where it's, it's Yang's situation, it was Blake's story at that time, and it was that was her scene, even more than it was Yang's. But of course, Yang's tears were way more powerful because of course we know Blake's story. This was just a bit more detail in how things started and why she's still cautious of someone she's so close to because it happened before. And we kind of see how things have resulted with Adam, at least in some sense. We haven't seen them meet up since then, but we know things haven't exactly been perfect. So I thought that was pretty cool that we got to see that. It's very interesting to see the result of this not being anything near what I thought it was going to be. I'm sure like a lot of people, it's like, man, what's going to happen? Is she going to go to jail? Is she going to be, is that how we're going to see Roman? Which I thought may have been a possibility. And, all this other stuff. And it's like, you did this and that. And it's like, but you're disqualified and that was it. And I was like, that's really weird. I thought it would have been way worse. And it was kind of funny. I was like, man, I know obviously this is the evil, villain plan. But I was like, man, if that really happened, I'd be super pissed. I'd be like, are you kidding? She like, she shot me with a gauntlet gun. Like, you guys need to like imprison her for life or something, something silly and crazy. But it's like, oh, you're disqualified. It's like, that's not good enough. She like broke my freaking leg. That's not good enough, like, oh, disqualified. But I thought that was kind of funny. Like, it all works out because, of course, it's the evil villain's plan. So it's like, oh, great, she doesn't deserve to be in trouble anyway. But it's just weird. It's like, that's it. Like, a disqualification, like, no big deal. It's not like, I mean, of course they would have wanted to win, but it's like, that's really nothing. So I thought that was interesting that she was just disqualified. And it still led to her mother. I thought for sure that would be another option where whatever happened to her, would lead to her finding her mother, and that seems to be the case because Crow comes in and he's like, Raven let a little bit of information slip, so if you ever, if you want to track her down, which you have all this free time all of a sudden, well, I might be able to help you do that. So that's a great way to lead into that. They did a couple of things during that scene where Crow was talking to Yang, and the first thing, this might be nothing, and it could just be the normal thing where it's like, oh, I didn't know that person was behind me, but, when Yang's looking out the window, and I love just watching Penny walk, like, her natural walking is just, like, super happy and stuff, but when she didn't realize that Crow was in there, it made me wonder if maybe he has super speed, kind of like RWBY does, even though they're not blood-related or anything. It made me wonder if maybe that was his semblance or something like that. But that could have just been, a random thing. She's obviously distracted, so it could have been nothing. But the other really big thing is that he mentions Raven as his sister, which I guess I should have figured out, but I completely forgot her name, to be totally honest, because she was only in technically 2 episodes, but I barely even together, I barely, it's like hard to even count that as her being in 1 episode. But it was funny when he mentioned that. I was like, huh, I never thought he was I don't know why, but for some reason, in Volume 2, I kind of lost the idea that he was their uncle, and I just thought, oh, maybe he's just their uncle because he was on the team, and it was because of, dialogue here and there. It's like, oh, they were on the same team together, and then that got me thinking, like, oh, he's not actually related to them. They call him their uncle because he's just like really great friends with their dad, and they've known him ever since they were born. But in a weird way, that's half true because for Ruby, technically that is the case because she's not blood related to him. But for Yang, that's actually her blood uncle. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I was like, oh, I thought it was just because he was friends with their dad, so that's why they just called him their uncle because they just grew up with him in their life. But it's like, nope, he's technically, well, for Yang at least, he's actually blood related, and for Ruby, it really is kind of just the friend thing. But I thought that was interesting, and then I'm pretty sure they never mentioned that before specifically where they're related in that sense. But like I said, if I remembered her name and it was like Raven and Crow, I'd be like, oh, they're probably related. I would have picked that up, but I just never did because she hasn't. She's nowhere to be found. She was super awesome, and then nothing. So Yang with black hair, she's out in the wind, doing whatever with the White Fang because she has like the mask and stuff. So I was thinking that maybe she might have been the spy, but I don't know and that could be the case. She could be Ironwood's spy, and that's who they were talking about, and it's actually Raven, which makes perfect sense because otherwise she's doing her own crazy thing in there. So she's gonna be I'm assuming she's their spy unless something else crazy comes up. But I guess that means that Raven is the one that's the spy. She kind of keeps in touch a little bit with her brother. She seems interesting as a mother. Well, clearly she left anyway. Like she seemingly died, but even Yang knew that as a kid. It was like, well, she up and vanished. She didn't die or anything. She just disappeared, and she could have been dead, but of course we found out she was alive. And it kind of makes me wonder, maybe Crow knew she was alive even way back then, and that's how he knew exactly where to go, because in Yang's memory it's like, we were about to get killed, and then poof, here comes Crow, and he just totally saved their lives out of nowhere. So maybe they've been keeping in touch, and he mentions it's every once in a while, so maybe that was just one of those whiles. But I'm looking forward to that storyline. I can't wait to see Yang encounter her mother. I don't know how things are going to play out because it's getting really, really crazy at this point, especially with the end of this episode. But that was, really cool. It's like they're setting that up where she can go and find her mother. Then, of course, we have Pyrrha and Jean in their conversation, which was, of course, even sadder. Like, Pyrrha had this saddest scene when she was crying, and, after she sends Jean into the wall, and she freaks out. And that was just, like, a devastating scene all around because Jean is super hurt because he feels like he did nothing but screw up the entire conversation, but he did everything he could have. Just sometimes even the right answer isn't good enough, so I thought that was a very good scene, and she's just completely torn apart, and he thinks it's just like, oh, you want to be a huntress, then go ahead, don't let anything stop you. But he, of course, doesn't know she might not even be herself if she goes through with this operation. He obviously doesn't even know about the operation, so there's a lot more than just, oh, she wants to be a great huntress. And her destiny, of course, is to do what she wants, but not in the way that she always wanted. So it was a very powerful scene. I thought it was very well done. A comment that I read did mention that Jean might have like a lot of aura because he does get sent into the wall really hard, and he falls to the ground and he just gets up like it's nothing. But thinking back on some of the stuff they've done, I don't think he has anything extra. He might, considering what happened. That was Volume 1, if I'm remembering right, when he was going up against Garden, and basically just an explosive aura force just like knocked the guy down. So he probably does have way more aura, or that's like his semblance is like just this weird sense of invincibility if he gets control of it. But I feel like that was fairly normal for some of the stuff we've seen because in the Volume 2 premiere, Yang gets sent, into the freaking sky when she goes up against Nora and she hits her with the watermelon hammer. And then she just comes back down and she got right back up like, sweet. And I guess you could kind of count that as part of her semblance since we kind of got that. But they've clearly done a ton of things where people get hit like crazy and, you know, they kind of move on. So I don't think that it may have been a part of kind of his ability, which we'll find at some point. I'm still waiting on figuring out exactly what it is, but it could just be a normal thing because that does happen. People take some crazy hits and they keep on moving in this show. So I don't really know about it, but that was definitely a really great scene, and I really love the way that it ended. I was kind of mad because, of course, it ended on a great, great cliffhanger, but it was a really good ending, and it was honestly very surprising because Emerald being at the match, that wasn't surprising. I was like, okay, well, you know, she's there, and you know, somehow I guess they all have like binocular vision because they're like a mile away, and Ruby's like, "Holy crap!" And then Emerald's just looking, and then it's like, "Is that Ruby a mile away looking at me?" I was like, "How can they possibly see each other?" But they do. But the big surprise is that Mercury was actually still there because their whole thing was like, "We can't have people see you." I thought he was actually going to be in hiding because they don't need to do anything. All they have to do is be like, "Hey, you know, Emerald sits, you know, in the crowd and just confuse one person from however far away she is in the sea, like she did with Yang, plain and simple." And I'm really scared. I'm sure it'll work out because in this case with Pyrrha versus Penny, that would be permanent. It wouldn't be simple like, oh, you know, she broke her arm or something like that. It's either going to be they plan on using Pyrrha to completely destroy Penny, or Penny to completely destroy Pyrrha, which I would assume is going to be the former, because I doubt that Emerald's abilities would work on Penny because she's a robot. And I think I mentioned that before where they tried to do it, but I completely forgot they already had the file, so they knew that she was a robot. I completely forgot about the scene when I talked about that. But I'm looking forward to whatever happens in the next fight. I'm not sure if they're going to wait like they did with Yang, considering both, you know, there is like completely new elements for both of them. So when it was Mercury versus Yang, it's like, all right, well, he's our inside guy. He knows exactly what the plan is. But with Pyrrha and Penny, it's like they kind of have to do it during the fight, I would assume, and kind of, you know, mess with things, or maybe not. I don't. Whatever they're gonna do, it's clearly gonna be use Pyrrha to, like, I don't know, blow Penny up or something. I don't know, because they can't. I mean, even if she ripped her apart, people would see like, oh crap, she's a robot. Crazy. So I'm very curious what their plan is, because if she does do that, then maybe the plan is like to destroy Pyrrha mentally, maybe to make her think she killed someone or something like that. I don't know, but that would last permanently because obviously Penny's a robot. So I'm I'm kind of lost on what they have planned for this fight. Like, it's either destroy Penny, which ultimately would be shocking to people, but it would be like, oh, she was a robot. I don't think it would be as impactful as what I'm thinking. So there's got to be some other layer that I just can't figure out right now. But I'm looking forward to whatever's happening. And then Mercury versus RWBY, I have no idea what to expect there. Because RWBY, of course, with her semblance being speed, she could technically just take off and, like, she could probably run into him and just push him down and then just take off out the door. So I'm not sure what to expect from that either. But I'm really looking forward to it. I think this is probably the first time I'm looking forward to seeing like the little promo for the next episode. I kind of want to get a hint as to anything for this next episode because I'm very excited. But this was definitely a great episode. Really sad, of course. Lots of tears. If they kept on Jean, I'm sure he would have been crying in this episode too because he felt like he screwed up so bad. But it was a really good episode. Lots of great moments. That was also my favorite shipping moment between Jean and Pyrrha for sure. That was without a doubt my favorite shipping moment for their characters. They had, you know, the two leaves drop down, you know, once he sat down next to her and stuff. But then they had it where the leaves blew away when she was talking about it's not just something that, you know, is meant to be. It's something you have to work towards. So I thought that was interesting that they did that, and that's when the leaves kind of blew away. So I was like, I don't know if that's foreshadowing or something, but I thought that was pretty interesting. But I love what they did in this one. They both had their moments of shock. Like Jean put his hand on Pyrrha's hand and she dropped the cotton candy, which is like one of 3 moments where you ever drop a full thing of cotton candy. It's either an accident, you've been shot, or, you know, someone you care about shows more emotion than ever. So that's exactly what happened. So that was really interesting. And then, of course, when she leans her head on his shoulder, that kind of surprises him a lot. So they had like a really great moment. And then it got really sad, obviously, at the end. But who knows what's going to happen? She's not going to be the same during the fight in general because of everything going on. Then we have the plan, whatever Emerald set up to do. And honestly, I'm kind of wondering if Mercury's even there, to be totally honest, because of basically because of what they said about him staying away. But I'm sure Emerald, didn't just follow behind. I'm sure she probably said something like, "Hey, Ruby saw me from, a mile away," so kind of intercept her wherever she's at, which was very convenient because obviously he couldn't walk around the stadium. He has to be in like a random maintenance tunnel because if anybody saw him, it'd be like, "Oh, hey, look, it's that guy." So very convenient. But I'm looking forward to this next episode. Of course, though, I want to know what you guys thought about it. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and I actually want to know what you guys think the exact plan is for Pyrrha versus Penny because, like I said, everything in my head ultimately, as shocking as it would be for Pyrrha to destroy Penny, people would still be like, "Oh, it was a robot." Crazy. And no one would lose their minds. I mean, they might because of the whole android, looking human thing, so that might throw people off. But ultimately, people would be like, "Oh, it was a robot," but then they would, of course, bring up the question as to why she did it, but they couldn't, do what they did with Yang, which wouldn't be anything anyway, apparently. But I don't know. I feel like they can't. I don't know. Unless they use. Oh, I just figured it out. They're probably going to use her to activate Penny's weapons and then try to destroy everyone else because she has that laser cannon, which she certainly didn't show off during the fight. And we saw how that worked on an airship in the Volume 1 finale, so I don't know. I just figured that out. That might be the answer, but I want to know your answer, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.